move. No! Don't move! Don't fucking move! You really thought I wouldn't find out? Look at me. I said, look at me! That's what I thought. Have any idea what you just did? Huh? No? You decided, alone, behind my back. God, do you know what that does to me? Huh?
The lift dinged. I rushed out the moment the doors of the lift opened. My legs shook beneath me as they carried me toward the front door of my house, my prison. All the lights were on. The house looked clean, bright, ordinary, as if nothing had happened. Mateo wasn't home. Relief loosened my chest for a moment. Of course, he was still on his way back from Atlanta. Like muscle memory, I folded myself back into the Sasha Grey of this house, into the homebound omega version of myself. Soundless, useful, purposeful, unnoticed. By the end of the day, the house was spotless. Too clean. I made myself a light dinner, plain porridge, washed the hospital smell off my skin, off my hair, off my hands. Then I sat at the dining table and waited. Waited like the usual Sasha Grey. Motionless, eyes fixed on nothing, like a statue, like I always was, like I had been for most of this marriage. The old-fashioned clock on the wall ticked by, too loud. Each second stretched thin, brittle. Each second stretched by like the calm before the storm. When Mateo finally stepped through the door, his anger arrived before he did. It filled the room, charged the air. The hospital had called him, told him I'd donated bone marrow, told him I'd been admitted, told him I'd signed and discharged myself out. Because of that, he'd cut his business trip short, rushed back and rushed around for nothing because the hospital told me I had left hours ago. And that was enough to set him off. His tall body crossed the living to where I stood in only a few long strides, his face thunderous, dragging along a thick scent of his pheromones. My nose caught a first whiff of his pheromones. Only one word dinged in my head. Oppressive. My omega instinct immediately caved. My defense instinct immediately braced for my folding shoulders and shrinking posture already acted on autopilot for what came next. Not the questions. He didn't ask questions. His hands did. Slap. A palm across my cheek. You think you've grown wings, huh? Slap. Another, harder, down my thigh. You're doing big things behind my back, huh? A shove that sent me stumbling backward, my back hitting the fridge. Mateo closed up whatever distance between us again. His alpha presence wrapped around me like a storm, suffocating, making my omega instinct scream at me to apologize, to do anything to calm his rage. The familiar big hand landed around my neck. Its familiar vice-like grips tightened until pain bent me into compliance. Why the hell did you do it? Don't make me ask twice, he roared. It was an emergency. I forced my sound above my fear level. I happened to be the only match. Oh, yeah? And you made such a big decision behind my back? How dare you? The same instant he grabbed my jaw, forcing me to look at him. You are my mate, Sasha. We're bonded, and you never thought to ask me first? He hissed into my face. Really? I'm your mate? I spat. My retort shocked him, but I shocked myself even more. Where did this courage came from? You never were. I heard myself hurling more words out of my mouth before I could stop them. His hand came up so fast, I barely had time to react. I turned away. This time the impact caught the side of my head instead of my face. Stars exploded across my vision. His grip back on my jaw again, but I could no longer see his face clearly, only hearing him hissing. He dared me. Of course, I was in the state of my tail between my leg if I were a dog. Hearing me whimpered quietly, he felt smug. His other hand tugged the back collar of my shirt low. I instinctively knew what he was going to do. He was going to bite my gland to reinstate his claim. I tried to swing him off, to put distance between us, but he was stronger. He never let me get far. Every strike spoke the same language older than words. Every pull, alpha domination. Every shake, correction. I didn't fight back. He wouldn't have heard me anyway. He never did. Not once in the 100 weeks we'd been married. He'd make sure I understand my place. And I knew, too clearly, what mattered to Mateo now wasn't what I did behind his back. What mattered to him most was that I was back. Back where he could see me. Back where he could touch me. Back under his full control. That was the regulation he needed. And once it set in, the worst passed. My body pinned against the kitchen counter. My breath knocked loose. The world reduced to series of rhythm and impact, and nowhere to go. He kept shouting about defiance, about loyalty, until the meaning dissolved into just noises in my ears, into a string of heavy breaths and wet smacking of flesh against flesh.
Don't move. No! Don't move! Don't fucking move! You really thought I wouldn't find out? Me? I said, look at me! That's what I thought. Do you have any idea what you just did? Huh? No? Don't answer. I can see it on your face. You decided, alone, behind my back. God, do you know what that does to me? Huh? I come home, and the house feels wrong. The air's wrong. You're standing there like you didn't just tear something open inside my chest. I told you, we don't make decisions like that without each other. Don't pull away. I'm not yelling. I'm trying not to. You hear this? This is me holding it together. Because if I don't, if I let go for even a second, you belong here, where I can see you, where I know you're safe. Everything else, that's That's noise. That's risk. You don't get to decide what's worth that risk. Stand still. That's better. You feel that? That's me calming down. Because you're here. Because you're not walking away. Because I can see you breathing. This is how it's supposed to be. I hate that you make me do this. I hate it. I lose control like that. But you push, and I break. Next time, think. Use that damn head of yours. I'm leaving. You stay right here and reflect on what you did wrong to me.
I'd learned this early. Staying silent means to shorten the violence. Stay still makes it all end sooner. So my lips pursed tight, I went ninja quiet. Swallowing the yelps of pain back into my belly, let my body go compliant, unresisting and small. I endured, like I always did, letting him claim me. Letting the pain transformed into a key, opening a door to places where I left my body the way and slipped somewhere quieter, somewhere that didn't belong to him. In that place, I stayed waiting. I waited it out, because waiting was safer than resisting. When it was over, he disengaged abruptly, pulling away from me like a storm losing interest. He grabbed his jacket, his car keys, and moved toward the door. The motion automatic, rehearsed. He'd done this more times before than I could remember. The door closed behind him with a slam. And just like that, he was gone. Almost as quickly as he'd arrived. The house fell back to a deadly silence. I stayed where I was, pressed against the counter, trembling, relearning once again the cost of surviving. I pulled up my pants and myself upright. Every step toward the bedroom reminded me of his strength or my weakness. I couldn't tell which was heavier. My body had taken his blows. Now my bed would take my tears. The house exhaled around me. Rain tapped a hollow rhythm on the windows. The refrigerator hummed. Copper and detergent lingered in the air, sharp and metallic. I sank onto the bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling. The tiny cracks on the ceiling blurred into crawling veins, twisting and splitting like me. Fragile, fraying, quiet under pressure. I used to believe love could fix anything, that if I stayed still enough, silent enough, the storm inside him would pass. But storms don't learn calm from silence. They learn repetition. And I had learned that lesson too well. People like to paint men like Mateo in black ink, as if cruelty was genetic. But Mateo wasn't born cruel. He was born grieving. His mother ran when he was 6. For her life, they said. Mateo told me once, that night his mother ran away, his father broke every clock in the house. Imagine this. In the eyes of a 6 years old, he observed only the harsh, unpredictable sound of breaking. Intermittent explosive disorder, the school counselor had said. Mateo, still a high schooler then, laughed at the diagnosis, as if naming his anger could make his issue smaller, as if words could cage the chaos inside him. But Mateo's IED disorder was never the cause. IED, on its own, was a residue. It was only the surface symptom. What lived inside Mateo wasn't just anger. It was a nervous system conditioned by fear, trained too early, hardened in childhood, and never taught how to disengage. No child is born violent. For stronger child, violence grows where protection never existed. Of course, Mateo didn't know all that. I didn't either. Not until much later when my own therapy finally taught me to see Mateo's anger issue. That diagnosis explains behavior, but history explains why it formed. Mateo couldn't stand counseling. He said the shrink's questions made him feel small, and smallness sent him straight back to the 6-year-old boy who'd been left behind. That refusal to ever feel small or abandoned again was exactly why people like Mateo lived inside nervous systems that never learned rest. Every sudden sound became a warning. Every moment of tenderness felt like a trap. They gripped love too tightly, because losing it felt like reliving the pain all over again. The anger, being abandoned, explained his explosions. The trauma, his own father's explosive rage, explained why this disorder existed at all. After Mateo and I got together, the early days felt like love. Those early days were sweet, even intoxicating. I took intensity for devotion, and certainly mistook that intensity for safety. Mateo's jealousy felt like protection. His control felt like care. My friends called him possessive. I corrected them and defended Mateo's possessiveness as loyalty. Maybe that's why I stayed. Maybe because I was desperate to escape my stepfather's abusive shadow. I thought I had found a harbor. After taking Mateo's first blow, I quickly realized I had only anchored myself to another storm. Mateo wasn't blind to how he treated me. He knew. He felt it. And remorse always came after, solemn, ashamed, small. Almost like a guilty boy, he was in the wrong. And that was the part that always ruined me. When he cried, when he pressed his forehead to my shoulder and whispered, I didn't mean it. I believed him, every time. His remorse was real, not calculated, not strategic. I felt them genuine, and each of his I'm sorries made me felt like safety returning. So every time I forgave him. Maybe that's how I survived this marriage, by mistaking regret for love, by convincing myself that tenderness born from guilt still counted as tenderness. He didn't know how to stop himself. I didn't know how to stop forgiving him. Maybe that was his way of surviving. And maybe mine was learning too late that I didn't need to save him because I too needed to be saved. And realizing that left me emptied. I lay on the bed, motionless, letting the emptiness around me close in. Mateo had left the house hours ago, but his rage still lingered inside my body, vibrating beyond sound. With nothing left to hold me in the present, my mind drifted. In that stillness, in that weakness, my mind drifted to the clocks. All those broken clocks in Mateo's childhood home. Time shattered. Time stopped. Time that never learned how to move forward. I told myself the worst was over, but my body knew better, because later that night a deeper pain bloomed. Slow, deliberate. Not sharp, but decisive. Something inside me was choosing what to keep, what to let go. My hand moved before I could think, pressing gently to my belly, as if touch alone could bargain with fate. "Stay," I whispered into the dark, to the little something inside me. "Please, stay." The silence didn't answer. The next morning, I woke to a cold bed. Mateo hadn't come home. That was expected. Between my legs, the blood had dried into a faint rust stain, quiet proof of what had been lost. I washed slowly, letting the water run over me. For a while, it ran pink, before fading to clear. I dressed layer by layer, as if I could put myself back into a body that no longer felt like mine. At the hospital, the diagnosis came quick, almost merciful in its simplicity. Dr. Williams said incomplete miscarriage, followed by a D&C procedure. The rest of me stayed silent, a hollow echo locked behind ribs in a body that felt foreign. Even grief had limits, and I had reached them all. Dr. Williams, the same steady voice who had stitched my wounds since middle school, looked at me long before speaking. His eyes measured, careful, as if words might shatter something already fragile.
"Sasha, shall I call for you? Someone?"
I knew what he meant. It wasn't about a phone call. It was the lifeline, the police, social workers, someone to pull me out of the mire. But I wasn't ready. I shook my head, automatically, smooth, muscle memory lying for me again. I told him I was fine. He told me I wasn't. But still, he sighed, nodded slowly. His eyes didn't believe me. There was a quiet insistence there, the kind that said he had seen this before, too many times, that he knew the truth, even if I couldn't admit it. Dr. Williams still kept me overnight, just a precaution, he said, but we both knew it wasn't. This grandfatherly doctor actually just wanted me to rest, properly, because he saw what survival had cost me.
In this episode, we have met Sasha Grey's husband and examined what Sasha endured during their 2-year marriage, how he kept forgiving Mateo over and over, only to hate him again. Mateo Hayes is not born evil. He was conditioned, then developed IED. Intermittent explosive disorder is a condition marked by sudden, disproportionate outburst of rage, followed by remorse, shame, and repetition. IED doesn't just injure the people on the receiving end of the violence, it corrodes the person who carries it. In a relationships, untreated IED creates the same predictable loop of tension, explosion, remorse, reconciliation. For the partner, survival often means adapting to the volatility, learning when to go quiet, when to yield, when to disappear emotionally to stay safe. From a mainstream psychology clinical perspective, Sasha's weak behavior as perceived by people is not unusual. In fact, it's quite a textbook case. He had been living a life a prolonged exposure to dominance does to a weaker person over time that left them unable to fight back. What looks like passivity from the outside is often a learned survival strategy. When resistance has historically led to more harm, our nervous system adapts, naturally, toward compliance. Sasha is not weak. In a clinical term, he is conditioned. His tolerance for abuse did not begin with his husband Mateo. It was shaped much early. You can watch Sasha's history in episode 1. Little Sasha had watched his father's hands control his mother. He had learned violence even before he could string a full English sentence properly. When these early schemas repeat in adulthood, awareness alone is rarely, very clinically, never enough to break the pattern, especially when surviving has been achieved through surrender. This is why, since episode 1, death has appeared to Sasha not as despair, but as an escape, not as self-destruction, but relief. Relief from a loop his body no longer knows how to endure. All right, we know episode 1 to 4 have been heavy. In the next episode, an external variable enters Sasha's system. We are going to bring in his savior, Ashton Kingsley. Stay tuned to see the first moment Sasha sees a lifeline dangling in front of him. But will he reach for it or ignore it the way he always has refused help? Or will his nervous system reject it because pain is familiar to him and familiarity feels like home for someone who'd been conditioned to endure rather than choose?